So I have parents all the time asking me, how do I deal with this difficult teenager? Well, teenagers aren't the same as children. It's kind of a different animal. We'll get into that today at Live on Purpose TV. Teenagers are so much fun. I had fun as a teenager. I've had a whole lot of fun raising a few and working with some here in my practice. There are times, however, when it's so frustrating. Why? It's because the control has shifted. Do you remember in some of the parenting videos we've talked about, I shared with you the 3 stages of moral development, and we pit control against maturity. As you become more mature, you take more control. Teenagers, as they gain maturity, will take more control, whether you want them to or not. Whether you intend to share it with them or not, they're going to take it. As this control shifts, it can become a little frustrating for the parents. It can be kind of frustrating for the teenagers too, especially if the parents are trying to cling to control that they no longer really have the authority to hang on to. So it gets to be a control battle. So let's start with that. 3 rules for control battles. Rule number 1, avoid them. Okay, don't get into them unless you absolutely have to. Avoid those control battles. Rule number 2, if you can't avoid them, win them. Yeah, I tell this to teenagers too, by the way. They're just better at it than their parents are. If you can't avoid the power struggle, you make sure you win it. Here's step number 3. And it helps you with step number 2, actually. You pick the issues. You pick the issues. As long as you pick something you control, you're going to be safe. You know what? Years ago, I was doing a home improvement project. And I'm not a plumber, I'm a psychologist. But this project involved a little bit of plumbing. It was very basic stuff that I figured I could probably do with the help of YouTube and some consultation. And so I went to my dad, and he shared with me the 2 rules of plumbing. It's so insightful, so wise. Thank you, Dad, for these 2 rules. He said, Paul, there's only 2 things you need to know about plumbing. Rule number 1, water runs downhill, as well as other fluids, but water runs downhill. Okay, pretty important to know when you're plumbing. Rule number 2, don't lick your fingers, which was a joke, right? But I got a kick out of that and realized, you know what? It's the same thing when we're dealing with teenagers. Because there's 2 rules. And the first rule is the water runs downhill rule. Some things you control, other things you don't. Get really clear about which is which. Rule number 2, this is the don't lick your fingers rule. Pay attention to the stuff you do control. So you got to be really discerning about what you control and what you don't. I've had so much fun in my office with parents. It's fun for me. That's the clarification, okay? Sometimes they're pulling their hair out. But it's fun for me to have this conversation with parents where we draw a big T chart. If you can picture a big capital T, all right? And it's just a chart. So on the one side, we're going to list all of the things that their teenager controls. And on the other list, we're going to list all of the things that the parents control related to that teen's life. So over here on the teenager side, we're listing things like school, for example. Who controls how your teenager shows up at school? Well, they do. How about substances? You know, alcohol, other drugs, smoking, vaping, whatever it is. Teenager controls that stuff. How about their attitude? Oh yeah, that side of the chart. Do you see how this is all stacking up? How they handle friends, how they handle cooperation, how they handle language, how they handle piercings or tattoos, how they handle whatever it is. That's in their control, right? Now, we mentioned a few things there that you might be thinking as a parent, wait a minute, I get to decide whether they get a tattoo. Well, yeah, maybe. Because they reach an age where they're going to take the control, even if you're not willing to share it with them yet, right? So I throw those things onto the teenagers list because this is all the stuff that they control. Now, what does mom and dad control? What's on this side of the list? And this is where I get blank, kind of deer in the headlights looks from parents because they're like, I don't know. There's nothing I control here, right? Well, there's nothing on that side of the list that they control, but what about their side? Here's where it gets fun. You as a parent, if you're a parent and you're watching this, you know what? And if you're a teenager watching this, thank you for being here. I hope you get something useful from this. I think you might. But if you're a parent, what do you control? What's on your side of that T chart? Number one, you control your own attitude, don't you? Here's a little tip. Be positive. Can you be positive if you've got an out-of-control teenager? Why, yes, you can. Stay positive. Why? Because it changes how you feel. It changes your life. You get to have more joy. You get to have more fun. When you're positive, it may or may not change anything that your teenager's doing, but that's a whole different conversation. You start from a positive place, and that's on your side of the chart. You always get to choose your own attitude. You with me? How about your own language? How about your own behavior? Yeah, all of that stuff's on your side of the list. Here's where we get to power it up. As a parent, I always control what I provide. I control that. Now, little disclaimer, and we need to be ethical and legal. Okay, so let's go there for a minute. You have a moral, legal, ethical obligation to provide certain things for your children. If you don't, that's called neglect, or in more severe cases, abuse. We're not going to go there. That is illegal and immoral and unethical, so let's not go there. You are required to provide 5 freebies. Here they are, in order of importance. Number 1, you are required to love them. All right? Now this gets back to one of my favorite things to share with parents. Your job is to love them no matter what, and even if it's free, they don't have to qualify for it, they don't have to earn it. You're going to love them no matter what, and even if. That's number 1. Number 2, air. Now I know you don't provide air to them, but you have no business depriving them of it either. So I put it on the list because apparently some people don't get this. You got to let them have their air, okay? Number 3, water. You can go a little bit longer without water than you can without air, but let's not play with water. Number 4, food. And I'm talking sustaining life energy here. I don't mean preferred food. That's not on the required list. But food, nutrition is. And then finally, shelter, which in most societies on the earth includes appropriate clothing. These are the things you are required to provide. They are the 5 freebies. Let's be clear about those. You don't get to mess with those. Oh, and clothing doesn't mean preferred clothing. It means cover the bare essentials. You see where I'm going with that? Okay, so everything else is negotiable. What I provide is the most powerful thing on this side of the list because I don't control the stuff that's on that side of the list. Now, what do I provide? Well, I provide the 5 freebies, obviously, but I also provide luxury. I provide access to space and equipment and services and appliances and storage of certain things. Do you see where I'm going with that? You provide access as a parent. What else do you provide? Well, I mentioned services. That could be its own category. There's a whole variety of services that you provide, like cooking and cleaning and laundry and transportation and driving. And wow, there's a whole lot of services. Cool. Not on the freebie list, by the way, but you provide it, don't you? Why is it important to focus on this? Because what you provide, you control. And outside of the 5 freebies, everything is negotiable. So now notice this. As we look at these 2 sides of that T list that we made, your child, your teenager controls all of this stuff. You control all of this stuff. Which list are you more concerned about? Which list do you lose sleep over? Which list do you worry about? Oh, that's obvious. We're worried about this one, but we don't control any of that. Which list is your teenager most concerned about? Well, they don't seem to be too worried about this one, do they? No, they're more concerned about this list. That means we have a deal in the making. Oh, that's good news. We can have some kind of a transaction here that looks like this. Hey, beloved teenager of mine, I will control some of the things on this list in the way that you like, in exchange for you controlling some of the things on this list in a way that I like. It's simply an economic transaction. Now, if you're coming from a positive place, and just keep this in mind, okay? Because when parents are smiling, kids are thinking. Good rule of thumb. When parents are smiling, kids are thinking. Because they're wondering what you're up to. What do you know that they need to tune into? Well, that's kind of where I want my kids to be. So we come from a positive place, and we simply offer, hey, you know what? I would be happy to control this thing in a way that you like if you will control this thing in a way that I like. Deal? Now, can they throw that back in your face? Yeah, absolutely. Well, what do? You simply accept that they have rejected your offer. What if it looks like this? Hey, buddy, I know you've been kind of struggling with school, and it's not fair for me to keep nagging you. We call it reminding. They call it, nagging. Hey, buddy, it's not fair for me to be nagging you constantly about school. You know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I trust you to make good decisions about school and how you're going to handle things. Because it's really important to me, here's what I'd be willing to do. Now we're going to our list, right? I would be willing to allow you access to my vehicles. And I would even be willing to provide driving services for you to get where you need to go if you would be willing to stay current in all of your classes and attend all of them every day. How's that sound? Now, what if it's, no, I don't like that teacher and they're on my case all the time. That's not fair. Okay, so did he accept your offer or not? Well, maybe not. So you simply just accept that. You say, okay, let me know if you change your mind. Now what do? You control this in a way that might encourage him to control this one. So he doesn't get to have transportation services. You know what? They're going to try to turn it back on you. Well, how am I going to get to school if you're not willing to drive me? Well, first of all, if you're doing your schooling, you get some driving services. So that's going to work out just fine. But I like to deflect that with a simple acknowledgement of their competence and intelligence. Okay? I usually respond to it in this way, for example. You know, I'm not sure, buddy, but I'm pretty confident that you could figure that out. You're bright. See how powerful that is? Simply an economic transaction at that point. I've been so impressed with the way you parents have been interacting here at Live on Purpose TV. I love the comments and the interaction. I'll see you tomorrow.